Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich. Today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about some skills. Hide. Well, that's not really a skill. Stealth is the skill. Hide is an action that you take. I also want to delve a little bit into perception, passive perception versus active perception, and when and where does investigation come into play? How do I handle these three things? Hide, perception, and investigation. If any of these things is sort of a stopping point or a little bit of a hiccup at your table, here's simply how I do it. As with anything in Dungeons & Dragons, there is no right, wrong, best, only way. This is just how I do, and perhaps something here might help you kind of a little more elegantly weave through some of the issues you might have with these things. So first up, let's talk about hide. Remember, it is not a skill, it is an action. Stealth is the skill check that is made as part of the requirement for hide to determine how well you hide. Really lean into the fact that it is an action. It's something that a player has to actively choose to do, because that's where and how the rogue shines, in that they can use hide as a bonus action. I believe goblins have something to play into hide as well. Now, when I'm dealing with hide, one thing I always do is I have to kind of delineate and separate between, are my PCs on a surprise round? Do they have time to hide? Or should I say, can I make the assumption when my player says, am I hidden going into this battle? Especially for the rogue, right? Before we've even rolled initiative, am I hidden? I told you that I wanted to sneak up. Was that sufficient? Was my stealth roll sneaking up? So that way, when the first round of combat comes into play, they already know going into it. Do they still have their full range of actions available to them? Or do they now have to spend their bonus action in order to hide? Do they get advantage? Therefore, are they going to get sneak attack? Are they already hidden? So you need to definitely weave through surprise rounds and whatnot to know and to be able to tell whether the PCs had time to sort of set up, if you will, right? But otherwise, let's assume we're not talking about a rogue and a player wants to hide. They want to have the advantage on their next attack because they're an unseen attacker, right? There's a sort of hide is kind of a wonky thing because there's a lot of different sections in the player's handbook. It's not all sort of in one place. You have vision and light. You have unseen attackers. You have darkness. You have things with dark vision, without dark vision. You have the stealth roll. You have bonus action for a hide. You have to have something to actually hide behind. So here's just a few things that I kind of think through. Number one, you need to have something to hide behind. If you are approaching, I don't care if you have a stealth of plus 27, minus special magic items and invisibility and such, if you are just moving up, no matter how stealthy you are, you need to have something to hide behind. If there's nothing to hide behind, I am not going to allow you to take the hide action. Also, stealth takes into account both sound and vision. In old school D&D, or 3rd edition I should say, I believe they delineated and separated between like move silently and hide in shadows type of stuff, right? Now the stealth skill encompasses both. So even if you have something to hide behind, if you are walking on broken, fallen leaves, dried out leaves, if you are walking across rubble, right, real loose terrain, and there's just this constant, yeah, you may have something to hide behind, but I might just outright say, hey, don't even bother trying to hide. Don't waste your actions trying to hide. You're not going to be able to sneak up. So that's the first thing, is before rolls are being made, before we've even asked the player to take the hide action or make the stealth check, just as a DM, adjudicate and handle and detail, can you even hide? Can you even sneak up on this thing? Okay? So once they do, assuming that you have something to hide behind, I'm going to ask you for a stealth roll. I'm going to have you kind of jot that down, chart it, keep track of it, and I'm going to constantly refer to that with my passive perception. Okay? So as you sneak up, you make your stealth check, you are now hiding. Once you attack, yes, you're going to get advantage. Yes, you're going to get sneak attack on that next attack because of advantage. You are now revealed. Just as the invisibility spell, right? We're not talking about greater invis here. Once you take that action And it doesn't even have to be an attack. Once you do something, what I always kind of think of it as, once you do something harmful, once you do something that has the intention of, to the detriment of the enemy, you have now revealed your position. You cannot, even as a bonus action, just re-hide again in the same spot. I always ask my players to physically move on the battlefield until they are now behind something else. You can't just keep doing the I'm hidden, I pop out, I shoot with advantage and sneak attack, and then I pop back in. Because the assumption is the monsters are always generally aware of what's happening. And they just know that dude keeps popping out from behind that same tree. So you are no longer hidden. You need to take effort using your move action, perhaps even using your bonus action to dash, to go across the battlefield to another location where you can now hide again. Okay? So yes, I will allow you to hide. You can do it in combat. You can say that you want to use your action. You're going to make a stealth roll, so on and so forth. But once you've done that once, you need to find a new spot to hide behind. And if there is nothing within range to hide behind, you cannot just continue to hide behind that same tree. If it is the lone tree in the middle of the wildlands and there's nothing else, no rocks, no person, like the halfling ability or something like that, to hide behind, once you get that one hidden round of advantage and sneak attack, you can't do it again, period. It's just not going to happen anywhere. So you have to keep trying to find hiding spots. Okay, that's the essence of how I handle the hide action. Now, passive and active perception and investigation and so on. I generally roll at the table with passive perception. That's all I have going. I have everyone's passive perception tracked. I know what the monsters are rolling at, and that's sort of always on. Now, whatever that number is, let's say someone has a passive perception of 15. All of the enemies hiding, anything that is trying to be discreet in their movement and their subtleties, I just refer to that 15 passive perception. And if I did not beat that 15, I just tell those players outright, this is what you see, this is what's going on. It's not requiring your effort, you're not having to spend your actions to do this. Now, when a player actively says, sort of I go around the table, you're approaching this area where you know there's these roguish goblins that are always trying to find these sniper positions and whatnot. Around the table, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Every player that says, I'm actively looking out, like I feel like we're walking into an ambush, notice we're not in initiative yet. This is just sort of that gray area, right, between closing the distance of when initiative is going to start or surprise rounds are going to be handled out, or handled, I should say, right? We haven't even gotten into initiative yet, but I ask, what are you doing? Everyone that indicates that they are sort of looking out, I will have them make a perception roll. Okay, remember, we're not in initiative yet, so this is not requiring their action, and when initiative does start, their action is not already spent. Just give me a perception roll, because you are actively perceiving your surroundings. And if that active perception roll beats your passive perception, I will, until you tell me you're doing something otherwise, distracting your eyes, basically, I will be forever treating, sounds weird, your active perception roll as your passive perception. If you actively perceive and say that I'm going to be looking out for ambushes and hidden things, and you roll a 19, strolling into combat from here on out, if it's 5 minutes before we get into combat rounds and initiative, for the next 5 minutes, your passive perception to me is now a 19, because that is what you are paying attention to. Now, obviously I need to handle, and the player needs to go back and forth with me on, you don't see anything, dude. Okay, I really, really want to pay attention. Can I get like advantage or, on that perception roll? Notice I will do that. Okay, are you going to basically block out everything else and devote all of your attention and efforts to looking out? Yeah, that's what I'm good at. I'm the scout. I need to make sure we don't walk into an ambush. Okay, give me your perception with advantage. You roll a 23. You are now operating as a 23 for passive perception. You don't have to do anything else. You've already indicated that you are devoting all of your time and attention to that. So now anything that's trying to sneak up on you for the next 5 minutes has to beat your 23 for you to not see it. Now, in combat, once we're in initiative timing, as a skill, using a skill is an action. Again, going back to the stealth skill and hide action, that's why rogues have the benefit of doing that as a bonus action. As part of the hide action, they get to roll stealth as a bonus action for me to determine how well hidden they are, right? So now we're in initiative timing. Now your perception is going to require an action on your part for you to perceive. Now, where does investigation come into play? I weave back and forth, and the reason why is because we're using two different stats here. Intelligence is often a dump stat for everyone but wizards. So most PCs are going to be better at perception than investigation. So does investigate always have to be the skill that's being used when they actually put their hand on the door and start moving around and checking for secret doors or trying to find little divots or loose stones or runes that they maybe didn't see otherwise? Do you always need to say that passive or perception is when you're just looking at a glance, but investigation is up close? I use both. Generally, when you put effort as a player and you dedicate your energy, your time, your focus to that one thing, you want to find the secret door. That's what you're telling me you want to find. So you are going to scour and scrape at that wall until you find it, or until the DM basically indicates there's nothing here, meaning that there's literally nothing there, or it's beyond your skill. I will then give you the option. Give me perception or investigation, whatever you're best at. And that's kind of the summary there of where I'm going with this. Your players are making efforts. Don't diminish those efforts. Don't take away from those efforts by having them roll investigation when you know they suck at intelligence, but they're really good at perception. So use either or. I do all the time. I use either one of those two, depending on what you're best at, when you're putting forth the effort. When you're distracted and you want to spend your actions defending the wall, or the gate, I should say, or focusing on something else, then maybe you can play into, well, just give me investigation then. I know you're not good at intelligence, but you're also not putting your effort into that. But you're standing next to the door feeling around, you just don't intelligently find anything. But when they're putting forth the effort, give your players the benefit of the doubt, and in doing that, don't require actions when you don't need it, and allow them to use whatever skills they're best at. And that can also lean into, even though I'm not going to cover it here, kind of athletics or acrobatics. Yeah, the book has little separators and bullet points and things that delineate which one is which, and I don't always go against the rules, right? A swim check, a climb, that's your athletic skill. Grapple, that's athletics, I believe, right? But if it's sort of an athletic movement that determines whether you roll over the table and don't land prone, give me what you're best at. Because maybe the vision of that character as a parkour guy is not so much of he's an athlete. He grew up as an athlete. I think there is Mythic Odysseys of Theros leaned into those sort of gladiatorial, athletic, Olympic game type of characters. Maybe you are a strength athletics guy. You're not a dexterity-based acrobatics dude. So use whatever one works best. But that's a quick ramble. Wanted to put a video out there. I am knee deep in the mud, as I keep saying, getting this book done. Also, yes, I know it was supposed to be released on Friday. I'm going to pull a CD Projekt Red here, Cyberpunk 2077. The book is not done yet. The Silberrot World book is not finished. I am delaying it, and it will be released for all of you to enjoy. That's all I have. I'll see you guys soon. See you later.